Hola, friends. Yo. Puesto Enrico. Puesto de taquiendo de famoso Pipilocles. Y today I'm responding to William Wyatt's comment from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's a bit of a slow, late response, but I want to respond to it anyway. I'm having difficulty discerning whether I'm an ENFP or an INFP, and this is a male NFP. The reason I want to make this video is I have a tendency to always assume that NFPs are female and make videos accordingly. This is a male NFP. I'm hypersensitive, tend to have extreme indecision, perfectionism, and paranoid perception of external patterns and connections. NE. Well, I don't know if that's paranoid perception. It sounds like you got a weird. Yeah, okay, I see why it would be this way you're describing here. But anyway, I'm looking for a beautiful house in nature with no neighbors so I can be alone and meditate. But I also want to be in proximity to a highly artistic community where I can play music and engage with friends, women, and enjoy my musical fame. But I can never seem to find this, so I never settle on renting a house. Instead, I often stay at crappy places for free, which results in anxiety over hygiene and poor air quality, or I pay for Airbnbs, which I'm continually dissatisfied with. I'm always searching for a better place, better job, etc. But the neuroses gets too much, so I often resort to either a healthy distraction, dancing to 80s music, yoga, walking in nature, or resort to drugs, overeating, porn, casual sex. When I walk or exercise in nature outside, my subconscious is on the constant lookout for opportunities, faces, and trees, arrows pointing me in a direction that I perceive to be destiny or fate. I try to break free from this superstitious thinking, but it always comes back. Every spelling mistake in this with a red underline, my brain tends to entertain the possibility that maybe the wrong words to describe the meaning. Instead of the obvious SE that I spelled the word incorrectly, the dictionary doesn't recognize the word. This all seems very INFP, but I'm also extremely social. I've met hundreds of people used to busk for a living, used to party all the time and have casual sex. So I could be an ENFP who's simply overstimulated. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Batman and GTA. I wasn't super social. I was a weirdo who would drift from social group to social group seeking validation and shifting my persona slowly while being still quite a weirdo who would tend to say something random or talk about the video game movie I was obsessed with. Well, that's an interesting comment. I hadn't really read through the whole thing. But, I don't know who this guy is. Hmm. Well, anyway, I don't see your things that suggest that you might be an ENFP to actually be very indicative of your being an ENFP. That was my answer to it. Um, Lots of INFPs go through periods of time when they're partying a lot and being social in that fashion. The question is more about their relationship with that behavior, how they think about that behavior, how they implement that behavior, than whether they do. So I think that's my first response is that kind of stuff does not indicate you're not an introvert. Whether or not you felt a continual need to return back to isolation to process things, or to process things internally without saying things out loud necessarily, that experience of interacting with a social group in that fashion is obviously different than that of the extrovert who likes for reality to be manifest externally. Anyhow, that's my initial thoughts on that comment. Now that I read through the whole thing, I wonder if I'm familiar with, like, you in any sense, if you have some degree of musical fame, or maybe a certain, like, scene status or something. I I don't know what to make of the behavior you're talking about with like having casual sex with various people or whatever, because I've never, by the time I attained enough like value points in life to even just sort of date successfully, I was already well defined as a human being. So I never did that. I never went through that phase where I took advantage of something that was available to me that would potentially be abused as a vice in that fashion. So I don't know what that experience is like in terms of distinguishing between INFP and ENFP. I would say that your general dismissal of it as bad within your own framework suggests to me more of an INFP mindset on things. And everything else that you say in that comment really suggests to me INFP. So that's my take on that. Anybody else have any comments on this? Okay. And just a final note, obviously a male version of an NFP is going to be different in some naturally occurring ways to a female version of an NFP. And uh, I think that the INFP is probably less likely to embrace casual sex from a male perspective than an ENFP who might be more likely to embrace it and say like, well, I'm a man and I'm enjoying my ability to conquer. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case. There's still NE DOMs, but we've got F5 in the second slot. I don't know. It seems to me if you use the particularist or physical aspect of your FI, that is to say, I know what I'm feeling right now, then that's a pretty smooth link directly from metaphysical action into know what I'm feeling into how to get there, TE, and to just sort of doing it one way or the other. So um, that might be a comfortable place. I don't know. That might be a good way to distinguish between ENFP and INFP in males that have that uh, pool of availability available to them. Just a last thought because I wanted to include it in the title of the video mostly. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat whole